I'm Nikki. I'm a DJ at WPRB. I also do other stuff, but mostly I'm a DJ. Today, we're going to learn about how to use a turntable.
A turntable.
If you're anything like me, you showed up to the station and you had no idea how to use a record, much less hold one, or turn on a turntable, or do any of its functions. The first part about learning how to use a turntable is learning how to hold a record. The record is what you're playing on the turntable. Hopefully that was already obvious. This is called the sleeve. It's what the record goes in. Sometimes there's an inner sleeve, like you can see here, just a piece of paper. You can pull it out like this. What you want to do is take the record out of the sleeve, holding it only by its edges. You want to hold the record like this. You don't want to go like this. I know I'm doing it and telling you you're not supposed to do it, but do as I say, not as I do. Hold the record like this, not like this. This is a turntable. Most of our turntables look kind of like this. The first thing you want to do is put the record on the turntable. See the hole in the middle of the record? You find the little metal nub here, and you just stick it on there. It's really easy. Next, you gotta learn how to turn on
the turntable.
Turning on a turntable is really easy. The on switch is right here. You just rotate it clockwise. You see the little red lights right there? That means it's on. Off, on, off, on. You get the point. You'll notice that there's a start-stop button. That's how you get the turntable to start spinning or to stop spinning. You'll also notice that there's two buttons. One says 33, one says 45. Records of this size are most of the time played at 33 rotations per minute, although sometimes they're at 45. You should always look at the cover of the record or the record itself. The DJ should have put whether it's a 33 or a 45. Generally, if nothing is there, it means that this size record is a 33. This is what's called a 7-inch. Most of the time, it's played at 45 rotations per minute. If I wanted to put it on the turntable, I would press the 45 button before starting it to make sure it played at the right speed. Next, we have to deal with the tone arm of the record. That's how we're actually going to get it to play, not just spin by pressing the start and stop button. This is what's called the tone arm of the turntable. You stick it on the record and it makes it play. The first thing you want to do before messing with the tone arm is make sure that you unlock this. This is the security lock mechanism thingy-majig. And just make sure that the tone arm doesn't swing all over the place while no one's using it. You never want to try to move the arm by anything except this little lever right here. And you definitely don't want to try to jerk it around when this lock is still engaged. So you just flip it up. Now let's zoom in here. Obviously you're going to be moving the arm up and down to put it on a record. The way you get the arm to move up and down is only with this lever right here. Move it up, and the arm raises slightly. Move it down, and it'll go down onto the record once you move the arm over. You don't just want to be messing with the arm manually like this. You can do it, but it's not best practice for being a DJ. So, to get the tone arm over onto the record, you're going to want to flip up this lever so that the arm is now up in the air. You're going to move it over to the record, and you're going to flip the lever down so that it goes down onto the record. Then you can just press start after you make sure you have the right speed selected. This is again a 7-inch record, and it says 45 RPM on it, but if it didn't say anything, you would assume 45, and you just press start. Now, you may have noticed that the music did not start immediately. It actually took a couple seconds, more than a couple seconds, to start playing the record. That's why we do a thing called cueing. Cueing is the process by which you get the needle to be in the right spot on the record so that it starts almost immediately after you press the start button. This is what you do as a DJ. It's the most important skill you learn. So, let's just start normal way of putting the needle on the record. Obviously, I'm going to flip this lever up, move the needle over to where it's over the start of the record, and I flip this down again, and I can press start. What I'm going to do when I'm trying to cue is I'm going to listen for the very first noise of the song and immediately stop the turntable once I hear that. So I heard the count off. That's the first noise on the record. I've pressed stop, and so now what I do is start to move the needle backwards. And the way I do that is not by touching the tone arm at all. And it's not by touching the actual bed where the record's spinning. It's actually by touching this edge with all the dots on it. Now what I'm going to do is just move it a quarter turn before the first sound happens. So first I'm going to spin it till I stop hearing the noise backwards. So spinning it backwards is counterclockwise. You hear that? Okay, the noise has stopped. I give it quarter turn. Now when I start the record, it should start pretty much immediately. The reason you give it that extra quarter turn counterclockwise is so that the turntable has time to speed up to 45 rotations per minute. Now you hear that the music starts almost immediately, and that's exactly what you want. Now obviously there's an element missing here, because when you're cueing a record, you don't want the sound of you trying to find the beginning of the next track going out onto the air. This is where you need to learn to use the board. The turntable I was using over there is turntable 1. So I'm going to find turntable 1 on the board. And here it is, right
Here.
Here are the basics of the different buttons on the turntable. This start button, it's red, it says start on it. It's not obvious in this video, but it's easier to see in real life. That means the turntable is engaged to go on air, and as soon as you move up this fader, there's going to be volume going out on the air, provided that the turntable is already spinning. If you want the volume to go away or do a fade out, you just move the fader down. So you could have the turntable spinning with the start button on. As long as the fader's off, it won't go out on air. However, you can also just turn the track off. That is this orange, yellowy orange button. This is just the off button. No matter how high or low the fader is, nothing's going to go out on air when the off button is engaged. Now, if you want to cue a record, you obviously want to be able to hear something in the studio, but you don't want it to go out on the air. This is where the cue button comes in. It's right above the fader. You just saw me press it, and the first thing you want to do is press that in order to start cueing a record. Now, when you're cueing a record, you want to make sure that the track is either off on the board, or if it's on start, the fader is all the way down. That way you're making sure that nothing is going out on air. There's no better way to do it, just do it the way that works for you. I usually do it with the track off just so I'm extra certain that nothing is going out on the air. Now, notice that when you press start on a channel that's previously off, it'll make the cue button turn off. So if you're cueing something from start, you want to make sure that it's engaged. Once again, if you press off and the cue button's engaged and you press start, you'll see the cue button turns off. So going back to wanting to play that 7-inch, the first thing I'm going to do before I mess with the record at all is hit the cue button and make sure the track is off. Now I'm ready to cue the record. Now, going back to the board, I actually want to play the track on air. So I need to make sure that cue is no longer on, otherwise I'm just going to be listening to the track by myself in the studio. So I'm going to press start and make sure the cue light is off and that my fader is up. And then I'm going to go back to the turntable and press start. And now my stuff is going out on air and everyone's happy. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned how to use a turntable. Of course, when you're putting it away, you just want to press stop. You want to hit the lever so the tone arm moves up. You want to move it over, hit that lever so it goes down again, and then you want to engage the lock so the arm doesn't swing all over the place. Now remember, you do not want to engage the lock when this lever is up. That means you'll break the arm and mess with the weight and all that stuff. So you just want to make sure it's down and then lock it, and then you just want to turn the record player off. There you go. You did it. Woohoo!